Welcome back to the podcast. It's the first of 2025. Ironically, the last time we were in the studio, Stephen Billman, it was me and you a couple of weeks ago in this studio, my last podcast of 2024. Why are we back?
You tell me.
Martin's team. No. There's always issues in the world. I've been doing this for 10 years now, right? And there are times where someone forgets to hit record. Sometimes someone forgets to hit video. This time someone forgot to press audio. But we love Martin and we love his staff. So Amplify Studios, for anybody that wants to use it, this is my favorite place to record at in Phoenix, Arizona. But now that we got that was probably, you said it was like the best podcast you ever did. So now we have to outdo ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
So Stephen Billman, we talked about rental arbitrage. We talked about credit arbitrage. We talked about your experience living out of your truck for a little bit and kind of the ebbs and flows of building up to what you're evidently doing now, even in your coaching business as well. Let everybody know what you're doing. Who is Stephen Billman? What's your story, man? You're from Texas, correct?
Yep. Let me just go into the whole thing.
Just go into the whole thing, then we'll go from there, man.
Cool. So growing up as a kid, my parents got divorced at a pretty early age. I know everybody's watching this like, damn, he started out strong.
Yeah, everybody's hooked now.
Yeah. So my parents got divorced at a pretty young age. And my dad, I'm from South Texas, like you said, and everybody works in refineries, oil field, whatever it is. Blue collar work, just breaking their back until they're 65, 70 years old. And that's just not what I wanted to do. I saw it like my whole life, and I always knew that's not what I wanted to do. Lived in probably just in like 5 years, lived in probably like 20 different houses, bouncing from house to house like crazy. Even lived in a foster home for a little bit, which, as you can imagine, wasn't the greatest. But at the same time, it's kind of cool because you always had like your friends like living with you. But yeah, after I got to high school, like I said, I didn't want to be in refineries, and I was just trying anything that I could to just make an extra buck. And at 16, what kind of started it all, kind of started my whole entrepreneur mindset shift, was when my dad and my stepmom were trying to buy me like an old beat up Dodge 1500 truck. And they were like, hey, we're going to buy this truck for you. It's like a $2,500 truck. It'll be a great starter truck for you. And I was like, hell no. And they're like, why not? Like, my dad was like looking at me weird. It's like, why would someone turn down like a free vehicle? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I'll just bust my ass and I'll work and I'll get the vehicle that I wanted, which at the time, if you don't know, you probably do. Texas is all about lifted trucks and stuff like that. So at the time, I wanted a brand new like Chevy 1500 Texas edition. And then I wanted to lift it and put wheels and tires and stuff like that. And at the time, at 16, my dad, a new vehicle was about $20,000. And he was like, you're not buying a $20,000 for your first vehicle. And I was like, well, I'm going to. And so throughout those next, I think it was like 3 to 5 months, I was working at Discount Tire. As soon as I got off work, or before that, actually, I joined the working program in high school so that I could just get out of class early. I could get out around like 10:30, 11. And then from there, I'd go work at Discount Tire. And then after I got off, there was still enough sunlight to get to mow a few yards. So I can mow like 2-3 yards at $40 a piece. And then while doing that as well, in South Texas, fishing is like a super big thing. So I was building custom fishing rods. And then, within those next few months, that's exactly what I ended up doing. Ended up buying that truck without a penny from my parents whatsoever. Lifted it, put the wheels and tires, did everything that I wanted to do to it. And then about a year went down, and then I still didn't want to do refinery work or anything like that. And so I ended up joining the Navy because I was like, I don't think I'm ready for college yet. I hated high school. And evidently, like, pretty crazy part about it is that I joined the Navy so that I could go to college because I was like, what else is there to do? Because everybody gets kind of brainwashed on, like, that's what you should be doing with your life. Like, get a job, go to college, whatever. Joined the Navy and went to boot camp in Chicago. Immediately from there, I went to school in Florida and then got stationed in my first duty station, which was San Diego, California, on my first ship, which was the USS Portland. And when I got there, I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Like, I got to the ship. It's a big metal box, so you don't have phone service. Your bed is probably just as wide as this chair, just wide enough for you to like sleep on your back or your stomach. Not comfortable at all. Super cold. No phone service. It stinks. You're in the same room with like 100 plus other dudes. The bathrooms are disgusting. So me being me, I decided to just sleep in the backseat of my truck. San Diego doesn't really get too hot or too cold. Luckily, I still had phone service, so I can talk to my family. And around this time was like when I started getting into like side hustles and doing literally everything under the sun. Got into drop shipping, SMMA, even did window tinting on cars and everything under the sun, even like day trading and crypto and stuff like that, which all of them not completely failures, but for the most part, I would chalk them down as a failure because I'm not doing them still. So, and around this time, I pretty much accidentally stumbled upon something called rental arbitrage. You might hear it called like Airbnb arbitrage, but this is essentially where you rent a property from a landlord, and then with that landlord's permission, furnish that property, and then you take photos of it, and then you would list it onto platforms like Airbnb, Vrbo, Bookings.com, or you can even list the property out to like traveling nurses, business professionals, and families for whatever it may be on like contracts. So I was super hard-headed, always have been, a lot less now because I've learned that like you can always learn more, you can always get more help. And like everyone else, you see like those people that are like gurus or like mentors online or whatever. And I was like, okay, I don't need to pay for a mentor. Like I can figure this out. Like Google and YouTube got my back, right? I was definitely wrong. But before that, I got into my first property. Pretty much used all personal credit cards. Luckily, I was active duty, and Navy Federal was kind enough to give me 25, I think it was like 25K or 30K on my first personal credit card. And actually second, technically, my first one was like a little Discover card, like $1,000 limit, but pretty much useless. Mm-hmm. But they gave me 25K on that. And then I used that to pretty much set up my first property in Escondido, California, which is pretty much a sub-city in San Diego. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool. The rent on that was $38.50 a month. And the first month pretty much crashed and burned. Didn't make any money. And I was like, I'm totally screwed because I use a personal credit card. Yep. And at this time, I didn't know anything about LLCs. I didn't know anything about business credit. I didn't know anything about leveraging anything whatsoever. So I thought I was screwed. And I went to a couple real estate events, and the general consensus was that, hey, you shouldn't be getting anything, especially not real estate, without having a mentor. So I was like, oh, shit, I guess I should have gotten one in the first place. So I ended up spending close to $15K that I didn't really have because it was a credit card on a mentor. And luckily that next month I did about $10,000 in profit, which I know sounds pretty unbelievable, pretty insane. But let me break it down real quick before anyone's like, this guy's full of shit.
And this was after paying for like a coach or like say like a program, right? Mm-hmm. Which you didn't want to do before. You thought it was BS. Mm-hmm. For anybody that like wants to get into something and thinks it's BS to pay for coaching, which it's like it's a double-edged sword. Yeah, but and continue.
Later I'll go into like what to look for and stuff like that if you're wanting to get mentored. But yeah. The next month did about $10,000, and I'll break down the numbers. So a property like that's about $38.50 a month in rent. You would charge anywhere from like $400 to $600 a night. And in San Diego, like I said, it doesn't really get too hot or too cold, so you got pretty good numbers year round. A lot of cities are pretty seasonal. They got a high season and a low season. San Diego, not so much. The average property does about 70% occupancy, which is like 21 days. I never really got that low. I was always up higher, closer to like the 90%. Now I do it a little bit differently where I'm almost 100% occupied. But at that time, charging around $600 a night, even if I was just getting 70% of the month, 70% of the month at 21 days, that's still $12,000. If you're around like the 85%, which is like, I don't know, 25, 26 days, quick maths, I don't know, what is that? Like 15,000 Yeah, so still profiting in between $10,000 to $12,000 a month after everything. So crushed it that month, and then that's when the light bulb kind of went off, going into what would have been the third month, but second profitable month. The light bulb kind of went off, and I was like, oh shit, like this does like really work. As long as you know how to do it and you know what to look for, you know how to let landlord or talk to landlords to let you use their properties, which is like in my comments on everything, everybody's like, no landlord would ever let you do that. I'm like, well, 17 different landlords have let me do it, or even more than that, and they've let hundreds of my students do it as well. And I'm sure there's thousands of other people that do it that I don't know. So you just have to know how to do it. Then after that, of course, the most important part is interior design and decor. And then my favorite part is setting up automations and stuff like that. So that was something that I was missing out on a ton, because I was trying to do everything myself. And there's a lot of that business that can be completely automated to where even if it's only yourself, even if you're not using a team, it'd still only take you a couple hours a week to manage as long as you have all your automations and systems in place. So yeah, I got out of the Navy this last May in 2024. I was in longer than I was supposed to be because like medical stuff. 100% disabled now. While I was in, I continued to grow the business, even when I deployed overseas. So for the people that are like, I want a side hustle or I want to get into a business, but I don't have time. I was working 90 plus hours a week. And I was even managing the business when I was not even in the States. Half the time, didn't even have service. So automations are key for sure. And yeah, kept growing the business while I was in the military because it is a super, super tight knit. Everybody's pretty much in everybody else's business. So at the time, when I started the business, I was only at E1. I got out of the Navy as an E5, which that rank all the way up to E5, none of those are very high ranks. Yeah. None of those ranks make very much money. But everybody's had me on social media. They could see like what I was doing, the cars that I had that I probably shouldn't have been able to afford at those ranks. So naturally, people wanted to know what I was doing. So I started teaching people completely for free, just helping people. And those people started making a lot of money. And I was like, okay, well, it's not just me that can do this. It wasn't luck by any means. Now I got tons of other people that are doing it, getting out of the military, and now still do that full time. And the only problem with that, it was taking all my time. But it was extremely, extremely fulfilling for me because around that time was when I was approaching like the 6 figures a month in revenue, at least. And if you don't know, I do about like 50 to 60% profit margins. By the time I was getting close to 100% revenue, which is before expenses. And I was getting kind of bored a little bit because I'm only 24 now. I started the business when I was 19 going on 20. And yeah, there wasn't much more that I could need to pay for. I had gotten married shortly after I started the business. So really all I had to pay for was like me and my wife. And I mean, we already had cars that were paid off. There wasn't much more that I wanted for. I grew up like in a small town, so I wasn't exposed to like a tons of like luxuries or like super nice cars and stuff like that. Not even till like recently in like the last year or like 6 months did I start like
Which is good, dude, because like, a lot of kids our age get hooked on that shit, and it like doesn't
super
matter.
Early. No, it doesn't matter. But yeah, from there, yeah, like I said, I realized it was taking a lot of my time, and I was like, well, busting my ass to like make all this money so I could have free time, and now I'm giving all my free time away and giving what took me like years and a lot of money and a lot of stress and a lot of effort to people like completely for free. I'm like, well, let me make worth of my time and actually like get paid for all of this. So I built what I have now, which is called B&B Syndicate, which is where not only I'm not like a huge like course person. I do have like modules like in my program, but I'm not like, I don't sell like a course. I don't sell like the course itself. You can't like come to me and like buy a course. The only course you can get from me is free. So if anybody wanted that, you can see on any of my socials, they can just grab the free course. But from there, yeah, built out the program that I have now, started teaching people. And not only teaching people, but like actually working with people one-on-one and like being a real legit mentor, giving them all the tools and resources that they need. And even if they wanted, giving them access to my team so that my team could not only find properties for them, but call the landlords and negotiate on their behalf. And even give them access to my interior designers and then setup team to do the interior design on their properties, set up their properties, and even list and manage their properties for them if they want. So I've been doing the mentorship thing probably, I don't know, 3 years now, 2.5, something like that. It's been pretty dope because the part of business that people hate the most is like starting the business, which for me is the fun part. Like I like the beginning. I like the hard, like trying to figure everything out, trying to put the puzzle pieces together, everything like that. And every time I get a new like mentee, I get to do it all over again. Because once you get a business like up and going, especially after like a couple years, depending on the business, of course, but at least this business, like once you get it up and going, it's pretty automated, and not 100% passive, but I would say like it literally takes me like less than 2 hours a week to manage. Sometimes it takes no hours if like they're just booked out and they're good to go. So like I said, it's super nice to have other people's businesses to work on. It's super fulfilling for me. It gives me something that I do, give me something to do that I like to do. In the meantime, like my business is still running behind me, which now we're doing over $150,000 a month. And last month we did $160,000 at about 59, almost 60% profit. So yeah, we crushed it last month. I've taught hundreds of people now. Mostly in the U.S. I have taught people like outside of the U.S. I've had students in like Sweden and Australia, a bunch of Canada students, but for the most part, everyone in the U.S. That's like my forte. I haven't done anything as far as business outside of the U.S. As far as rental arbitrage goes. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at now, and we're still cranking every day.
Man, what do I want to unpack first? I think I want to, because you're right, what you were talking about when it comes to like people not liking starting the business. Like if you're a true entrepreneur, you love the process of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You love figuring out what works, what doesn't work. I think a lot of people don't like starting maybe because they don't have much capital starting out. Or like if you're starting like a course, it's like, okay, you're probably going to start out making money by the people who are purchasing whatever it is you're selling, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to try to spend as less money as you can starting something up, as opposed to some companies that'll find the capital and then it's like, okay, let's hire employees, let's bring in production, whatever business that you're in. I want to go all the way back though to when you bought the truck. What was this, like 2019, 2020 is when like you were kind of at that low point. Because I know we talked about this last time too, kind of overcoming just the mental shift of being in like a rock bottom phase of your life, because we've all been there. And if you haven't been there, you're going to be there at some point.
Yeah.
How did you mentally get yourself out of that before you were able to like kind of pinpoint and be like, ooh, this worked, let's try this again? Like, how did you force yourself to get out of that like really shitty mindset that you're probably in?
I don't think I was really in like a shitty mindset. I don't even think I had like a thought about it at all as far as like how things are going to go. I kind of saw it as just like literally it can't get any worse. Like, mm-hmm. And the truck that I was sleeping in was paid off. So it's not like if I lost everything, like I still would have had that, or at least I could have sold it, whatever. And went back to sleeping on the ship. So at least I had that. Like I was in the Navy. So like technically like you still have food, you still have a place to sleep, even though it is shitty, uncomfortable. But I didn't really have a thought process on like I need to do this, like whatever. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like this sucks. I'm broke as shit. I want to get out of it. And that was just the fastest route that I could see to get out of it. So I wish I had more like of a deep like meaning kind of story.
No, but like you definitely got to that point where it was almost like, all right, can't get any worse. You still wanted to get out of it. Yeah. Of course, right? I think, and I've asked a ton of questions like this. I think you gave me the broken happy answer of would you rather be broken happy or wealthy and miserable? And I've heard it from both ends, dude. Like some people are like, oh, of course I want to be happy. Like being broke, if being broke is the cost of that, so be it. But I also have friends that are like, I've been broke. There's no such thing as broke and happy. Like, give me the money and I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say there's a lot of people that like say money don't buy happiness, which is true. Like you can't literally like you can't go to the store and swipe your card and buy happiness. Like that is true, obviously. But I will say money does give you options, and secondly, it does for the most part, like it can pay for health. It can make sure that you're drinking better water, you're eating better food, you're living in better conditions. Like just make yourself like just personal development. Get access to better gyms. And people are like, what does he mean? Like Planet Fitness is good enough. No, like
not at all.
Yeah, there is a huge difference when you're going to gyms that are pretty expensive. You're hanging around like just higher tier people. Parking lots full, like whether you're into cars or not, like you're aware like what an expensive car is. But driving into the parking lot, like it's just really motivating seeing like other people like crushing it, and it just convinces you that you can do it yourself. And that's something like super big for me. But yeah, money gives you options. Like I had an argument with someone. They were saying like a homeless person has freedom. I'm like, no, they have no responsibilities, but they don't have freedom. Freedom is the option to do whatever you want whenever you want to do it. And they were like, no, that's options. I was like, duh. I was like, that's what freedom is. Freedom is the option to do whatever the hell you want. I was like, you can't tell me a homeless person has freedom when they're starving, wishing they had a roof over their head. That is like the farthest thing from freedom, if you ask me. So yeah, I would definitely say there is. I think people get their heads caught up on like the money doesn't buy happiness thing, because they think like you see like especially in movies, and people just more and more these days like doom scroll and have just brain rot, and they're convinced that like big CEOs and stuff like have all this money and they're just like are suicidal, which is like anyone that thinks that, like I don't know anyone that's like told me that or thought that. And I'll ask them like, okay, how many CEOs do you know? How many like millionaires do you know? And like normally they might know like one, and I don't really believe them when they tell me, or they don't know any at all. It's just they're basing their opinion off of like social media or movies or shit they see on Netflix. And I'm like, dude, like at least me and my friend group, we're all like pretty young. We're in our 20s. Everybody's crushing it. Make more money than any of our friends that we grew up with. And like I can confidently say we're a lot happier. We might have a lot more stress and a lot more things on our plate. But we can pretty much do what we want when we want to do it, eat where we want, travel where we want. And I don't know how you could see that as like anything but like freedom and happiness.
Yep. And it all stems down to your environment. Plain and simple, really. Like you're not going to be making the money you want overnight, but like if you're around the right people who can teach you and mentor you and you could provide that value in return, you're going to get there way quicker than you think you're going to get there. Yeah. And you're going to enjoy the process, which is the most important thing.
It's like I say, if there's 4 millionaires, or if there's 4 guys in a friend group and you're the 5th guy in the friend group, 4 of them are millionaires, like you're soon to become like the 5th millionaire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's literally the quote. Like if you surround yourself with 4 millionaires, you'll be the 5th. Or
and it goes both ways too. Like if you're hanging out with like bums or like people that are addicted to alcohol, which is like huge nowadays, like something that I'm noticing like more and more, like how much people like just love to drink. Like me, I'm not like one of those guys that's like I wake up at 4 a.m., do a cold plunge. I haven't drank in like 10 years or anything like that. Like I'll drink like if I'm doing something, but you'll never catch me just like sitting in my house drinking beer or drinking anything, or just like going to the bar and sitting down and just fucking getting blasted. Like if I drink, it's because I'm like snowboarding or like I'm on a trip or like I'm doing something fun.
And you're with people that you care about. And
I don't
having a good time.
I don't almost literally never like do I drink for fun. Like if I'm doing something fun and then I'll drink on top of that, but like I really do hate like drinking for fun. And people are like, yo, you want to go out to the clubs? I'm like, why? So I can sit there and get ear raped by music and just get blasted and feel like shit.
That's the first time I've ever heard ear raped before. That's perfect description of what it is.
And then feel like shit the next day.
Music blasting in your ear while people are trying to talk to you. This is not the place to talk to me. I can't hear a damn thing that you're saying.
And the next day, your stomach hurts, your head hurts, you don't have a voice. Like, it's almost like ruining 2 days. Not just
You're also married too. So you took out that element of why a lot of people go out to the clubs.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons, like, why I got married early, on top of, like, of course, like, I love my wife, and, like, this is pretty crazy that I, like, don't ever mention. She talks about it all the time. But we had met while I was on leave in Texas. And if anybody doesn't know, it's just, like, vacation for the military. And I got invited out to go to this country bar. And at this time, like, that was, like, all I did was, like, drink and have, like, meaningless sex. Like, literally the epitome of, like, pretty much, like, what a lot of people are now. Just, like, have brain rot and just do anything that they feel like doing with no, like, impulse control whatsoever. But yeah, ended up meeting her, went to this bar, and I was 20 at the time, so they put M's on my hands for minor. She had just turned 21, like days before, so she got a bracelet, and so I could tell, like, she had like a thing for me, and I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna go get, like, her bracelet. And then she's a girl, so they just give her a new bracelet. She tells them, like, it fell off or whatever. She's like, yeah, if you buy me a beer or whatever. So I got her a beer. Ended up giving me her bracelet. I went and, like, washed the M's off my hands for minor in the bathroom. And yeah, we ended up kicking it from there. Went back to her place. And it's pretty crazy. A few days after that, probably, like, she knows the exact days, like, pretty crazy, but probably, like, 5 days after that, I asked her to be my girlfriend. And I think 19 days after that, or 19 days after the day we met, so 10, 12 days after that, I proposed to her.
What? Really?
And then...
We didn't talk about this the first time.
Yeah.
19 days?
Yeah, and then I think it was 3 days after that we got married. She would know the details.
Within 3 weeks of meeting her, you guys got married?
This. Yeah, she's going to watch this. We're going to be at home. She's like, no, you got it off by a day, but whatever.
You're not telling it right. Dude, that's nuts. How long have you guys been married? 5 years now?
Almost 4.
Jeez, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. And it's just because, like, if anyone that knows me, they know I'm, like, very, very decisive person. Like, I'm not, like, the type of guy that's, like...
You don't dwell on things. You don't play games with people. Yeah.
Let me think about it. If you, like, ask me a question, like, I'm just gonna go, like, however my gut feels. Like, if my gut's like, nah, like, I'm just like, no. And they're like, what is such a good opportunity? I'm just like, no, bro. I'm not gonna sit here and, like, think about it. Or I'm just gonna be like, yes. Which a lot of the times, unfortunately, and fortunately, on some cases, like, I just like go with it most of the time. Because I'm, like, a huge proponent on, like, if I fail at something, if something bad happens, like, as long as I don't take it as a failure and I take it more of a lesson, like, it's totally cool. Like, if I see something and I'm like, this might fail, but I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. And then if it does work, then sick, like, it worked. If it doesn't work, then I'm like, okay, what can I do to fix it to make it work? Or, like, what can I learn from this so I don't do something like this again?
I mean, finding your spouse, dude, within 3 weeks. I always love hearing stories like that because it just shows that when it comes to finding, like, your person or your spouse or marriage, like, you could do it in 3 weeks. Like, within 3 weeks of meeting, we were engaged. Within 5 years of dating, we were engaged. And then, like, they got divorced a year later, where it's like, I know a couple that got engaged 3 months into meeting. They've been married for over 30 years. It's like, nobody's wrong or right? Or, like, my gut tells me, like, I don't think I could do 3 weeks, but maybe if I met the right person, I could. Yeah, Was there any doubt in your mind at all then, where you're like, oh, this could fail?
I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as y'all can, like, both agree that, like, no matter what, y'all gonna make sure that it works. And I know people are like, everybody says we're gonna make it work. Well, I mean, like, don't get with someone that you think is, like, full of shit or you think someone's lying. Like, I was, like, full-heartedly telling the truth to her, like, I'm gonna make this work, like, no matter what. She said the same thing. Could she have not been telling the truth? Yeah, but, like, obviously she did. And, like, I'm, like, a super headstrong person, very driven, and just do things super fast paced and just always, like, go. She's more, like, slow, chill, more empathetic for people's feelings. I'm more of, like, the person that's, like, I'm super, like, non-empathetic because I've like been through a lot of shit, and like I really don't care to hear anybody's excuses on why they can't do something. Because something that I live by is there's always someone that started worse than you that's doing better than you. So like you don't have any excuse like for you not to succeed. And people have like always excuse like something that's crazy to me is like people will like can't afford their bills, but they have a freaking $1,500 phone. And I'm like, you figured out how to get that into your hands. Yep. Like you have willpower to like make sure that you can do things that are maybe not like you think like super attainable, but like you can do your thing. You can do things like that. It's just how much like energy you're willing to put into it.
That's the brain rot that you're talking about. People don't think for themselves.
No,
you're right. It's like people do have like a $1,500 a month phone. People do have car payments. You're living in a nice place, but like you can't get work. Like you can't like double down and actually take a risk on like a concept that you've been dwelling over in your head, and you don't actually jump for it and take that chance. People don't like to be told what to do, but at the same time, they take it anyways. It seems like.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to take the risk to better yourself, but you'll totally take the risk on making sure BMW or Mercedes gets their car payment, or Apple gets their payment for the phone. But like, screw bettering yourself. Like you should pay those big companies. You should make sure that they get their money versus saving money, like keeping the car, keeping your phone, which probably is nothing wrong with it. You just want the new phone.
Yep.
And bettering yourself. And people are like, they might see me now. They're like, don't you have like a just badass crib and all these cars and shit like that? I'm like, yeah, but like, I was still living in military housing. Me and my wife shared like one car, a Nissan Sentra, like a 2013 Nissan Sentra, like old as hell. And I was making almost 6 figures a month. And we were still living like that. And the house was like $2,000 a month, which if you don't know, in California is like ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
And the car was like a $5,000 or $6,000 car that like I just bought in cash. And we were just saving up, making sure that I could build up the business, stack things up so that when I was going to get out of the military, she could quit her job and I could do this full time. A lot of people, like you were saying in the beginning, they'll start making money. Like most people make between like $2,000 to $5,000 a month. They'll hit that $10,000 a month mark and they're like, oh shit. Like they start balling out, they start getting designer. And then they're back at where they were. They're making more money, but now they're spending more money and they're back to essentially being broke. And people do it all the way up to like every number, $20,000 a month, $50,000 a month. They'll make $50,000 and spend $49,000 that month. Like you just got to know how to leverage your money and just chill.
Yeah, I mean, you could live a pretty good life on $10K a month.
Yeah.
As long as you're not if you're not materialistic in the sense, like you growing up in an area where like you weren't exposed to the Lamborghinis and the Rolexes. Mm-hmm. I wasn't either. I grew up in a small town in New Jersey, came out here to Phoenix, and all of a sudden you're seeing cyber trucks left and right. You're seeing everybody in their designer clothing. Being a podcast host, it's like all these influencers that you realize, oh, they weren't as big as you thought they were because they're showing up in like their Lululemon and their
like this.
I mean, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's something if you're making $10K a month to splurge on. They're nice clothes. But just like almost like what do you call it? Like it's like snake skin printed jackets and like nice stuff.
I don't like designer clothes like at all.
No.
Especially like a lot of it's like pretty shitty quality too.
But apparently it shows status. It shows, like, I've had mentors in the past that they're like, I wear this, like, 20-pound, like, rock of a Rolex. It's like, I don't like the watch, but, like, the way people look at me, like, they think I'm a big deal.
I like watches, but watches hold value. You're not going to buy, like,
It's an asset.
You're not going to buy, like, a $5,000, like, Louis Vuitton shirt and then sell it to someone for $5,000. Like, ain't no one buying that shit from you.
A couple years ago, dude, Rolex. I was in Vegas. And one of my mentors was with me. He's like, I need you to hold my shirts as he was checking in. And each shirt was $1,000. Just a T-shirt. I'm like, why are you spending $3,000 on 3 T-shirts?
Yeah.
That's like $50 max on T-shirts for me.
Yeah, the only thing that I'd like to spend like dumb money on as far as clothes would be like suits. But watches typically like appreciate, like they do better than the stock market a lot of the times. And they definitely do better than vehicles. So I don't have anything against watches. Like if you can afford it, like you can rock a badass watch, and if you're ever in like a sticky situation, you can sell watches pretty quickly, probably for more than what you got it for. So,
not that you care at all, but what did your parents or her parents think about the 23, 24 day engagement?
I think it was, now that I remember, I think it was, we got married after 19 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Married after 19 days. So
crazy.
I don't remember how many days it was that we got engaged, but like I said, she's going to watch this and be like, you idiot, but whatever. My parents actually didn't know, like, at all. I didn't tell my parents. She didn't tell her parents.
You guys elope?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I flew her out to California. Essentially, we had decided to get married so fast because I lived in San Diego. She lived back where we're from in South Texas. She hated it there, as did I. Obviously, I joined the military to get out of there. And we were just like, we want to live together, like whatever. She hated it there, so I was like, okay, like the only way we can do this, because both of us are broke as fuck, is to get married, because the military will pay more for your marriage and give you BAH, which is your housing allowance. So yeah, our parents didn't know for probably, I think it was like 2 or 3 months before they even found out. And it was by accident, because I was on FaceTime with my dad, and she was out there with me. And like I went to scratch my face, and I had a ring on, and he was like, "What the hell is that?" And my parents didn't really, they were pretty chill about it. They didn't really mind too much. Her parents didn't really mind too much about it either, which is, I thought one of our parents would freak out, but they were pretty chill about it. I think they both knew that like we didn't really care like what their opinion was on it either. So they couldn't really, I don't think we gave them the space to feel mad about it, because they were aware that we didn't care what they thought anyway. Obviously, if we eloped and we had been married for months already,
right?
Without telling them, like, so yeah,
that's how you know it's going to work out, dude. When all 4 parents are just, awesome, good for you guys.
Yeah.
And here we are 4 years later, and this was before everything financially pretty much clicked for you. If I got my timeline correct,
we were both like super broke. But she was there when I bought, like, right when I was thinking about buying my mentor. She's kind of like what convinced me. She was like, just do it. Like, you won't stop talking about like getting a mentor. Like, just do it. Because I was just like, should I not? Like,
right. That's when you were kind of like dwelling and really overthinking it a little bit. Like, got to save the money that we have.
Yeah, this was when I was not such a decisive person, but I will say becoming a decisive person has like made me so much more money, and saved me so much time and so much headache. Of course, like, I made decisions that have cost me money, but like, it saved me a lot of time. And honestly, as long as I learn from my failures, then I don't really chalk it up as a failure.
Have you had any like mentors in the past that did you wrong to make you like overthink like that initially? Like, have you ever been like done dirty in business when you were trying to build all this up?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, a few times. Yeah, that always happens, but yeah, it is what it is. You keep
I mean, you learn from it.
You
especially like you're 24, I'm 26. I've had at least, I could count at least on one hand how many people that have mentored me early on that I'm like, they're either not legit, trying to get a bargain out of me and like almost like working me like a mule and not paying me as much as I need to be making, or just people that believe, like, put too much stock in their own hype almost, and believe their own BS, and they try to like bestow it upon your brain. And I'm like, I don't think this is the way. Like, you see them do business with people, I'm like, I don't think these people like you as much as you think they do.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a lot of that, and the more and more we get into like the world of everybody having their social media brands too, it's like there's so many fakes out there, especially in Scottsdale, especially in Miami.
I would say Miami more than anything.
Miami's the worst.
I haven't really, I keep a pretty small circle, so I can't say like what I know about here, because I don't really hang out or like outside of my circle. So I haven't really experienced anyone here as far as in Arizona. But yes, I will say if someone's like looking into a mentor, like don't just pick me as a mentor just because you're watching this podcast and it's like easy to click to. Yeah. Because my stuff will probably be in the description. Like, don't just pick that. But whatever it is that you're wanting to get into, for me, that was rental arbitrage. That's what clicked for me. It worked really well for me. It's worked really well for hundreds of my other students. But when you're looking for a mentor, like, it's pretty easy for someone to show like their results. Like I will say, I don't know about here, but I would say not even just Miami, just online in general. Like there's a lot of people that I'm sure don't have like legit like personal results, but there's a lot of people that like have their own like personal results, which is cool. Like someone has their personal results, whatever. But something that you need to look for is, do they have like student testimonials? Do they have student results? Do they at their students like on their social medias? Like, could you go like talk to their students if you wanted to? Do they have YouTube videos like with their students? Stuff like that. If you go on someone's social media and they're selling a course, and like usually it's like you'll see their highlights of like their student wins or student testimonials or anything like that. If they don't have any like testimonials or anything like whatsoever, like showing that like not only did they do it, or at least did they say they did it, but they've also taught other people to do it. Because even if someone like doesn't have their own personal results, like actually, if they show that they have personal results, and whether they do or not, but they're teaching other people and those people are succeeding, it doesn't really matter too much. Now I would say like on the ethics side of things, like it does matter, but
Of course.
but as far as like if you were to be one of my students, and like I was someone that like didn't actually have results, but I could make sure that you got results, it really wouldn't really matter too much on your side. But something that I would look for in a mentor is, one, obviously like make sure they have like their own results, which I don't know too much about other spaces or other like mentors or anything like that, or people call them gurus. Just about my space. And something that I like to do is like record like my computer screen, or like I'll have my phone like on my computer screen, or like refresh or whatever it is. But more importantly than that is like obviously that the mentorship or program, course, whatever it is that they're selling, like other people are getting results from it, and you can like see in their content, their highlights, their YouTube, whatever it is, whoever they're working with is actually getting results as well.
It's tricky, man, finding the right mentor. It's really not as easy as someone would say, oh, just go find a mentor. It's like you really need to find someone that like speaks to you and really has your back, because it's a slippery slope. I mean, I'm sure in your industry too, because it is such like a niche industry. Like you were talking about before, a lot of people's initial thought was, well, why would the landlord let this kid do that? Or like, why would that work for over 100 people? That would be my first thought too. I'm like, how does that even work? That like, isn't that like the landlord's job to take care of all that stuff? And he's just handing it off to someone that kind of reached out.
Yeah, I mean the basics of that, just to like explain, because people like will ask that question and I'll explain, and they still like will ask the same question. The landlords, at least like if it's a landlord that's like investor and they have like multiple houses, I mean it still pertains to the people that like this is just like their second house or whatever, is like the first house they bought and then they got a new house. Still pertains to them, but for the most part, the landlords that I'm referring to are the people that are investors. They know a lot about like being a landlord and real estate and the issues with like being a landlord, and we can take care of a lot of that. The biggest one I would say for landlords, like the issue for them, is tenant turnover. When you get a new tenant, the old tenant, usually like there's a bunch of stuff messed up with the house. They got to pay to get a lot of stuff fixed. They got to update a lot of stuff. They got to get everything back in code, make sure everything's safe again. Especially if someone has like kids and animals, like the house is getting all screwed up. So they won't have to deal with that, obviously, with us. If you're running as a rental arbitrage business, you're running it as a business. And so it would not benefit me whatsoever to have a broken window and scratches and holes in the wall. Like that would give me bad reviews and I would make less money. Like for me, it only benefits me, and because of this, it benefits the landlord to make sure that the property is in like perfect shape. Like most of the time, not even most of the time, every single time, it's always better shape than what I got the property in, because we're usually like, you'll see like little marks like that, like on the wall, or like a scratch or whatever. Like we're going through and making sure the house is literally pristine, like so that nobody can say anything bad whatsoever about the property. So with that, typically we sign like a longer lease, so they're not having to worry about tenant turnover every year, and hopefully we'll never leave as long as the landlord's like cool with us staying forever. Like we'll take care of the property, we make our money. But in the event that we do have to leave the property, like they're not going to have to do a bunch of stuff. Like the property is literally going to be move-in ready, like as soon as we move out. Secondly, we're always going to be paying rent on time. Like we're a business, we're not living there. So the money that's being allocated to pay that rent is like coming from a business. Like it's not coming from us working our job to make rent next month. And in the event for whatever, like we want to move out or we can't pay rent on the property, again, we're a business, we don't live there, so they're not going to have to evict us or take us to court or be like a huge dog fight. Like we're a business. Like if anything happens, like we'll just leave. Like it's not a huge deal. Thirdly, and this is more importantly for the investors, like if we're taking care of this property, we're solving the biggest problem with being a landlord, which is finding predictable and reliable tenants. And if they have 5 other properties, like we have, as long as the numbers work good for us, we have no problem fulfilling those properties as well. So it's kind of like a hack for them because they get a reliable tenant that pays rent, a lot of time pay more than the rent, take better care than the property than any long-term tenant ever could. Because one, I don't know about you, but my personal house doesn't get professionally cleaned like 3 to 4 times a week. Cool statistic. Most people's houses maybe get professionally cleaned 1 time, and that's usually when they're moving out. So I don't like just that statistic in and of itself. Like we're cleaning a property 3 to 4 times a week professionally, like a 3 to 4 man crew, and a long-term tenant is not cleaning it. It's probably just the mom, like sweeping, mopping, and then taking care of their stuff like laundry and dishes. But our team is like making sure the whole house is like completely spick and span and literally pristine. And then next, if there's anything wrong with the property whatsoever, if like a guest breaks something, like we're covering that, we're fixing that. A lot of times of a long-term tenant, like something breaks, they just don't say anything about it. And then when they leave, there's a bunch of stuff. It's like broken.
What's like the worst tenant story that you have? Because like we've talked about this in the past too, where it's like the initial fear for these landlords or these homeowners that are renting out spaces. They're like, well, these kids just want to throw a ton of parties, right? Especially in the Airbnb space.
Yeah. So, I mean, before I go into that, like the way you kind of have to pitch it is more like corporate housing, where you're renting out to travelers, business professionals, nurses, families. I try to almost never say Airbnb because people have the like negative connotation. You tell them like, hey, I'm going to use this for Airbnb. And like, they just immediately think like Project X, like type shit is going to be going on in the property. And that's just not the case at all. Like, in fact, Airbnb like bans like parties. And you can actually like, if someone's having a party there, you can charge them like for me at least, like charge them like $1,000 and then kick them out of the property. So like you take the money that they paid for it, charge $1,000 and get them kicked out. And a lot of times if they're partying, like you get them banned on Airbnb too. So
wow,
like, you get your money and kick them out. So you can tell the landlord that as well. Yeah,
it's a crazy business. I feel like there's just a lot more that goes on behind the scenes than you probably like can initially even tell on a podcast, because you probably dive in way deeper when you don't call them courses, but like when you're helping like a protege kind of dive into this. Every either homeowner or landlord like has a different background, a different story, different wants, different like desires for how they want everything to be well kept. Different people that you're renting out the spaces to, because you really don't know what they're going to do at the end of the day. Like every tenant is different. Every tenant's got a different character, different personality, different wants as to why they're using the space. What like the absolute like biggest nightmare like that you've had with a tenant?
I haven't really had anything like too crazy. I mean, guests do weird stuff like put knives, or maybe they don't put it there, but have had knives like under like couch cushions and stuff like that. Not like propped up or anything like that, but just
like hidden away,
just like laying under there. I think the worst experience I had someone like someone in bigger houses that had like I think it was like 12-foot ceilings, and somehow they managed to like get up to the ceiling fan and like break the blades in the ceiling fan. I to this day don't know how they got up there. And that same guest, like we had, it was like lounge pool chairs that like lay out and like you can stretch out on. It looked like someone had like pretty much just like ran across each one of the chairs and like stuck their foot through each one. So that was pretty much like the craziest experience. I think they were just like, there's a bunch of like workers that were staying there. They were on like a midterm like contract, which What I do is normally short-term rentals, which is where you charge like a nightly rate. Mid-term rentals is anything longer than like 30 days. So, and then of course long-term is like traditionally like a landlord, like yearly contracts. Um, but yeah, they were staying there for like a couple months, and then like I guess I don't know, they drank too much or whatever, but they broke the ceiling fan and like stepped through all the chairs and stuff like that. They ended up like paying for it, and they were super cool about it. And one of the guys felt super bad about it, so like we actually had our garbage disposal break. He actually just went to Home Depot and bought a new one and installed it. So we didn't have to pay for it.
That's nice.
He just felt like super bad for it.
It's a good dude right there.
Yeah, that's not the case a lot of the times, but it just depends on what kind of properties you have, because all the like horror stories and stuff that you hear is people that are trying to like do rental arbitrage or do Airbnb or do short-term rentals, and they want to have like a 1 or 2 bedroom property that's like $100 a night. Like, of course you're gonna get shitty tenants if you're charging like $100 a night.
Yeah,
it's like you don't. It's like charging. I don't know how to like. It's charging like crackhead prices. But if you charge that like at the rich, like the
right. It's
like
the difference
Ritz,
between like low ticket and high ticket offers.
Yeah,
So
like
if you invest more money, you're gonna take care of
it's like
everything.
no matter how nice the place is, if it's the Ritz Carlton, you're charging like crackhead prices, like $50 a night. Like you're gonna have shitty people in there.
Yeah.
But like those hotels like have nice people in them because they're really expensive, and like typically like, and I'm not saying there's like no shitty wealthy people, but like typically you have like a lot higher tier of a person. And for me, I like to stay in like single family homes. 3-bedroom, 2-bath or larger, and typically have really high tier like amenities, really good interior design, which of course like costs more on the front end, but I can charge more on a nightly basis, and I deal with a way higher quality like guest. So I don't have like any crazy like insane horror stories where people are like freaking doing meth in my Airbnb or anything like that. Yeah. Just because like I intentionally do things like that, so I don't work with people like that. And the same thing with like making sure that I work with people like outside of like pricing. They're gonna be like good for my business and not wasting my time. Is like having a lot of stuff in place to make sure that you can do like background checks, and then having like a deposit and everything like that to make sure that you're working with just a high quality person.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I think we talked about this last time. You are obviously very good at this, right? Mm-hmm. And you've helped over 100 different people succeed in this as well. You talk about finding like your purpose and like having a passion in life. I think those are like the two things everyone needs to feel complete. You need to have some sort of passion in your life, whether that comes in the form of a job, a career, being a spouse, being a father, anything else in your personal life, right? Mm-hmm. Being a great nephew or having nephews, nieces, being a great uncle, aunt, whatever. And then there's the difference between your purpose. Sometimes people's passions align with their purposes. You don't necessarily like have a strong passion for this, correct?
No, I would say like I'm not one of the people that's like do what you love for a living and you'll never work a day in your life. No, like you hear that saying. That's another one of those things that you like see in movies, and people have been brainwashed to like believe that shit. But like, I don't know many people that do what they love for a living, for long at least. Typically they do it and then they start doing it longer and longer, and then the thing that they love just becomes a chore now. Like I saw all the time back home with people that are fishermen. They were really, really good fishermen. They like were doing all the fishing tournaments and they just crushed it. And they started being a fishing guide, teaching like people that are just newbies that don't know how to fish, teaching them every day how to fish, and they just become numb. Like they don't enjoy fishing that much anymore because they're doing it constantly. And you're just doing the same thing over and over and over. Like, yeah, for me, I would say passion, probably is like driving my cars and snowboarding. Yeah. Snowboarding is probably my number one. And that's something that I would never do professionally. One, I'm nowhere near good enough. My body
all it takes is one injury, dude.
Yeah, my body is nowhere near healthy enough. Like I said, I'm 100% disabled. I got all kinds of stuff wrong. Like, even if I wanted to, like, my body wouldn't even allow me to be, like, a professional or X Games or anything like that, or even be, like a snowboarding coach or guide or whatever you call it. But, yeah, I would never do that, like, as a job, because more times than not, from my experience, not from, like, social media or YouTube or movies, like from actual physical experience, from talking to people. A lot of people that have loved something and started doing it as a job ended up like not loving it so much. So yeah, for me, I just picked what I was really good at, and not to say that I'm not good at other things, but like I said, I stumbled across like rental arbitrage almost on accident, and ended up like being what I ended up doing, and I ended up being good at it. So I just rolled with it, and it's what made me the money the fastest. It's what, and I didn't hate it. I liked it. I had fun with it. So yeah.
I truly think if you're getting like the ROI on whatever you're doing, you're gonna like what you do at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like you can like it. I like it. I'm good at it. I'm getting insane ROI on this. I can do this for a living. Versus like doing what you like. I know a ton of people who have been doing what they love for a living for the longest time, who don't necessarily make a ton of money, but they still love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like to each their own. But
Yeah.
life has like a really funny and depressing way of just beating you down regardless. Like you could love what you do for 20 years and you're right. Like you don't really love it as much as you used to do it because you're in it every single day.
Yeah.
Like if you stop doing it for like 3 years and then get
Well,
back
it's like-
into it, you might love it
You're
again.
no longer doing it like just for fun anymore. Like you're doing it because like you have to do it. Like you're doing it. It's just like a job. Like showing up from 9 to 5. Like even if you like your 9 to 5, like having like you have to be somewhere. Like just something. There's something about like for the most part like humans just don't like to be controlled. Or at least they think they don't. Most people are controlled and they are totally comfortable and fine with it. But for me, at least, like I don't like being told what to do. I have a problem with authority. Like, even my own wife, like I tell her if like you need anything from me, like ask me. Don't tell me like, hey, you need to do this, because like I'm not doing that shit. Like, don't tell me what to
Like,
do.
while I have you, can you get around to taking out the trash? You know, like
Yeah.
something like subtle like that. It's just like, you need me to do it right now. It's like,
But
yeah.
she was like, take out the trash. I'm like, negative.
So what do you want to say to these people as we wrap this up? Take 2 with Stephen Billman. What do you say to people that want to go after something that they have an insane passion for, they think they're really good at, but they're just too damn afraid to make that leap?
And you don't even have to have like a passion for it or be good at it. But if it's something that like you're like, I think I could be good at this, and I think if your goal is to like make money with it or whatever your goal is with it, like if you think that you can do that, like you think if it's a possibility, like my thought, like I've done all different kinds of things like throughout life. I know I'm young, but I've done a lot of different like jobs, and I've lived in a lot of different places. And you could literally die like right now as you're watching this. You could freaking have a brain aneurysm and just croak. Like, and I tell this and people like laugh, and I'm like haha funny, but I'm like, no, like for real, like the chances of you driving home and getting in a car wreck and dying are like a lot higher than you probably think it is. Like the chances of you like developing cancer are a lot higher than you think it is. Like anything could happen. Like me, and I know like some people it might sound stupid, but you know how in movies when people die and like their whole life flashes before their eyes, like from a kid to everything they've ever done.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think it'll happen exactly like that, but if you die, like I'd imagine like there's some kind of like reminiscent like kind of flashback of your whole life. And before I go into that, I've talked to like a lot of like really elderly people that were like a couple years away from passing away, even like my own grandparents and stuff. They always have some kind of regrets that like, and a lot of them more than you would think. Like they're like, I wish I started this business. I wish I got into this. I wish I did this. And now they can't ever do that. Like they're gonna pass away. Instead, they could have done that thing, and the chance that it succeeded, then badass, it succeeded. The chance that it failed, like you got 2 ways to go with that. Either learn from why you should never do that again, or learn what failed and make it succeed, which is, I think, the best route. But for me, like, I'm not so afraid of dying, but I am afraid of dying with regret.
Yeah.
And doing something that I wish I could have done, because I don't believe, because the chances of like being born, like first of all, are like 1 in 4 billion. Like you could win the lottery like dozens of times before the odds of being born, which is pretty insane. So for me, like, I don't see why you would be put on this earth and just waste it and just going day by day, living and essentially working to live, just going to your 9 to 5 to make enough money to pay for your car that takes you to work, to pay for your house, so you can sleep and go to work, just to pay for all these things that can get you to work the next day. And then it's kind of just a waste, in my opinion.
It is.
Just working to live versus taking the risk and doing the thing that you think might work when it'll probably fail the first time. You're probably going to fail a lot of times before something works.
Failure is coming regardless.
Yeah,
it's just inevitable. You're going to fail at anything that you do starting out.
Yeah.
It's just about facing that failure.
Yeah,
getting over the hump.
I'd much rather fail and have no regret about wishing that I did it. Because like I said, you could die today, you could die tomorrow. Like, I could just be driving. Like, I have some pretty fast cars. I could be driving and just screw up and just die tomorrow. Like, and it would be pretty shitty if I died tomorrow or died today, whatever it was, and I didn't like do anything that I wanted to do, and I just stayed comfortable because I was scared to do whatever it was that I wanted to do.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, 100%.
Second time.
What's up, guys? So I hope y'all liked watching the podcast, learning a little bit more about my story, maybe having some questions answered that you might have had about me. Apologies for being a little bit sick, but I'm going to be doing a lot more podcasts, hopefully here pretty soon, and I'm going to be doing a lot more vlog, day in the life, week in the life type of content. So let me know down in the comments down below what type of content you would like to see from me, as well as drop a like and subscribe if you like this type of content, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.